My friends, listen to me, because this may be the most important message you hear today. There comes a time in every person's life when they must stop and take a long, hard look at themselves. Not just the person they want to be, not just the person they pretend to be in front of others, but the real person inside, the one hidden behind the smiles, the distractions, the excuses. Have you ever felt something stirring inside of you, a power, a force, something that could build or destroy, heal or harm? Let me tell you, there are signs that you may be far more dangerous than you ever imagined. Not just to others, not just to the world, but to yourself. The danger I speak of isn't always loud. It doesn't always come with flashing lights or sirens. No, sometimes it creeps in quietly. It starts with small habits, with thoughts you dismiss, with choices you think don't matter. But let me warn you, what seems small today can shape your entire destiny tomorrow. So I ask you, have you ever wondered if you are dangerously close to something you can't take back? Have you ever questioned whether the path you're on is leading you to greatness or destruction? Because, my friend, there are signs. And if you don't recognize them, if you don't open your eyes to them, they may consume you before you even know what's happening. Listen closely now. If this speaks to you, pay attention. I need you to hear me on this. Let me give you the signs. These are the warnings you cannot ignore. You constantly battle with uncontrollable anger. There is a fire inside you. You feel it rise at the slightest provocation, a heat that surges through your veins, ready to consume everything in its path. It's not just frustration. It's not just irritation. It's an uncontrollable, untamed force, one that seems to have a mind of its own. It burns through your words, your actions, your relationships, leaving behind a trail of damage that you often regret, but never seem able to stop. And maybe, just maybe, you've convinced yourself that it's justified, that the world has wronged you, that people don't understand you, that you have every right to be angry because life hasn't been fair. Oh, my friend, listen to me. Anger can be righteous, but unchecked anger is a slow poison. It is a wildfire that does not discriminate, consuming not only those around you, but eventually your very soul. Have you ever noticed how quickly your patience runs thin? How in moments of stress your heart begins to pound, your fists clench, your breath quickens, and before you even realize it, words fly out like daggers, sharp, cutting, irreversible. You watch as faces change, as trust dissolves, as people pull away, not because they don't care, but because they fear the storm within you. Maybe you tell yourself that this is just the way you are, that you were born with this fire, that you can't control it, that people just need to accept it. But deep down, if you are honest, you know the truth. You know the pain it has caused. You know the friendships it has shattered, the opportunities it has stolen, the love it has pushed away. And here's the terrifying part. Anger never stays the same. It grows. It feeds on itself. It digs its claws deeper into your mind and heart until it becomes your identity. You wake up with it. You go to sleep with it. It whispers in your ear, convincing you that it is your strength, when in reality, it is your prison. Think of the moments you have lost because of anger, the apologies you should have given but were too proud to say, the relationships that could have been mended but were instead torn apart by one more outburst, one more moment of unchecked rage. Have you ever walked away from a conversation, from a fight, from a decision, and felt the weight of regret press against your chest like a stone? Have you ever wished you could take back the words that wounded, the actions that destroyed? Anger convinces you that you are in control, when in truth you are the one being controlled. It makes you believe you are powerful, when in reality it makes you weak. Because true strength is not found in dominance, in raising your voice, in forcing others to submit to your will. True strength is found in restraint, in wisdom, in the ability to take a breath when every part of you wants to lash out. But here's the real danger. When anger is not controlled, it evolves into something far more destructive. It turns into bitterness, and bitterness is the slow death of the soul. It hardens your heart. It blinds you to love, to joy, to peace. It turns every memory into a grudge, every conversation into a battle. every interaction into a potential war. And once bitterness takes root, it is not easily removed. It poisons your thoughts. It changes your perspective. It makes you see enemies where there are none, threats where there is only kindness, rejection where there is only misunderstanding. So let me ask you, do you recognize this in yourself? Do you see the signs? Have you lost relationships because of words spoken in the heat of anger? Do you struggle to let go of offenses, replaying them over and over in your mind until they consume you? Do you feel the weight of resentment pressing against your chest, making it hard to breathe, hard to love, hard to trust? If so, then, my friend, you must wake up. Because if you don't take control of your anger will take control of you. It will lead you down a path where all that remains is destruction. Destruction of the people you love, of the dreams you once held, of the peace you so desperately need. But here's the good news. Anger does not have to define you. It does not have to be the master of your life. You can break free. You can choose a different path. You can learn to pause before you speak, to walk away before you react, to replace rage with understanding and resentment with grace. But the first step, the most crucial step, is to recognize the danger, to acknowledge that this fire within you, if left unchecked, will consume everything. And once you see that, you can begin to change. You can begin to heal. And, my friend, healing is possible, but it starts with you. You feel no remorse for your actions. There was a time, maybe long ago, when your heart was tender, when the weight of your words, the consequences of your actions mattered to you. When you would lie awake at night, replaying moments in your mind, feeling the sting of regret for the things you had done. But something changed. Maybe it was disappointment. Maybe it was pain. Maybe it was betrayal. Somewhere along the way, you hardened yourself. You told yourself that caring too much made you weak, that guilt was for the foolish, that remorse was a burden you no longer had to carry. And so, little by little, you shut off that part of yourself. At first, it was just small things. A lie here, a broken promise there. You told yourself it didn't matter, that people would get over it, that life would move on, and it did. But something inside of you started to shift. The voice of conviction that once whispered, "This isn't right," it started to fade. The guilt that once made you pause, it became easier to ignore. And eventually you reached a place where you could hurt someone, deceive someone, walk away from someone, and feel nothing at all. The impossible. But here's the terrifying truth. The moment you stop feeling remorse is the moment you stop being truly alive. Because remorse is not a weakness, it is proof that your heart is still human. It is proof that you still have a conscience, that you still have a soul that longs for what is good and right. When you lose the ability to feel remorse, you don't become stronger, you become colder. And the colder you become, the harder it is to find your way back. Think about the choices you've made, the words you've spoken, the people you've hurt. Have you convinced yourself that none of it matters, that they should have been stronger, that you did what you had to do? Have you justified your actions so much that you no longer feel the need to make things right? If so, you are on dangerous ground. Because, my friend, no one becomes completely numb overnight. It happens little by little. A small compromise here, a hardened response there, and before you know it, you're standing in the wreckage of relationships, of trust, of opportunities, wondering how you got there, but feeling nothing at all. And here's the deception. The world may tell you that this is power, that being unbothered, unaffected, indifferent is the way to survive, that it's better to hurt before you get hurt, to take before something is taken from you. But the world is wrong. Because when you lose your ability to feel remorse, you lose more than just guilt. You lose your connection to what is real. Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like a stranger was staring back? Have you ever wondered why the things that used to move you no longer touch you? Have you ever realized that in pushing away guilt, you've also pushed away joy? Because that's the trade-off. You cannot numb yourself selectively. When you silence remorse, you silence love. When you block out guilt, you block out peace. When you stop feeling pain, you also stop feeling purpose. And the worst part, it happens so gradually that you don't even realize you're slipping away. And let me tell you something else. When you stop feeling remorse, people notice. They may not say it outright, but they sense it. They will not stop walking. It's whenever you agree that you have made a mistake, that all you think about is remaining in a mistake. They feel the coldness in your words, the emptiness in your actions. They start to keep their distance, not because they don't care, but because they know you no longer do. They learn that no matter what they say, no matter how much they give, they will never reach the real you, the you that once cared, that once felt, that once loved. But listen to me, because I need you to hear this. It is not too late. That numbness you feel, it is not final. That hardness inside of you, it can be softened. You do not have to stay on this path. You do not have to live in this cold, dark place. But you have to make a choice. You have to decide that you will not let yourself slip any further. The first step, acknowledge the damage. Let yourself feel again. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if it hurts, even if it means admitting that you were wrong, because there is something beautiful on the other side of remorse. It's called redemption. And redemption is worth everything. You isolate yourself from those who love you. There was a time when you let people in, a time when you shared your thoughts, your struggles, your dreams, a time when you knew deep down that you weren't meant to walk this road alone. But something changed. Maybe it was pain, maybe it was betrayal, maybe life simply wore you down. And now, without even realizing it, you've begun to pull away. At first it felt like self-preservation. You told yourself that you needed space, that no one really understood you anyway, that people only bring drama, disappointment, or distractions. So you built walls, high, thick, and unshakable. You convinced yourself that solitude was safer than vulnerability. And before you knew it, the very people who once stood by your side felt miles away. You stopped answering calls. You stopped returning messages. You found excuses to avoid gatherings, to stay home, to keep to yourself. And slowly but surely, the silence that once felt like peace began to feel like a prison. You tell yourself that you don't need anyone, that you are fine on your own, that this is strength. But my friend, listen to me. This is not strength. This is a warning sign. Because isolation is where the real danger begins. When you shut people out, you don't just protect yourself from hurt, you also rob yourself of healing. You see, pain is inevitable in life. Betrayal will happen. Disappointment is certain. But the answer is not isolation. The answer is wisdom. The answer is knowing who to trust, who to lean on, and who to let go of. But when you isolate yourself completely, you don't just lose the people who hurt you, you lose the people who could help you. Think about it. Who were you before you started shutting people out? Who were you when you still allowed yourself to be seen, to be known, to be loved? When did you start believing that loneliness was better than connection? And here's the thing. At first it may feel good. It may feel like control. But eventually the silence gets louder. The empty spaces in your life start to weigh heavier. And without anyone to challenge your thoughts, to remind you of who you are, to speak life into you, you begin to lose yourself. You see, the most dangerous thing about isolation is not just the loneliness, it's the lies that start to take root in your mind. Lies that tell you no one cares. Lies that tell you no one would understand. Lies that tell you that you are better off alone. And the longer you believe these lies, the harder it becomes to return to the truth. Because isolation doesn't just keep others out. It keeps you locked in. Think about the people who used to be close to you. The ones who reached out. The ones who checked on you. The ones who saw something in you when you couldn't see it in yourself. Where are they now? Have they stopped calling? Have they stopped asking? Have they given up? Or did you push them so far away that they had no choice but to let go? Because here's the reality. People can only knock on a closed door for so long before they walk away. Not because they don't love you, not because they don't care, but because they have come to believe what you've been showing them, that you don't want them there. That you don't want them there. But I need you to understand something. It is not too late. That wall you built, it can come down. That silence you've embraced, it can be broken. That loneliness you've settled into, it does not have to be your home. But you have to take the first step. Reach out. Answer the call. Send the message. Let someone in. I know it's hard. I know it feels risky. I know you don't want to be hurt again. But the danger of staying isolated is far greater than the risk of connection. Because, my friend, you were never meant to do this alone. And if you let them, there are still people waiting, hoping, ready to walk with you. You manipulate, deceive, or control others for your gain. There was a time when you were honest. A time when you spoke with sincerity, when your words carried truth, when your actions were driven by integrity. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. Maybe it was survival. Maybe it was ambition. Maybe it was fear. Whatever it was, you started to see the world differently. You realized that honesty didn't always get you ahead. That playing fair didn't always get you what you wanted. That sometimes bending the truth just a little made things easier. And so you started to do it. At first it was small. A white lie here, a little exaggeration there, a convenient omission where necessary. And no one questioned it. No one even noticed. But then something changed. You realized how easy it was, how effortless it felt to twist a situation to your advantage, how simple it was to get people to do what you wanted if you just said the right thing, withheld the right detail, played the right card. And before you knew it, it became a habit, a strategy, a way of life. But my friend, listen to me, this is dangerous ground, because manipulation is not just about controlling others, it is about losing yourself. When you manipulate, when you deceive, when you control, you may feel powerful in the moment. You may feel like you have the upper hand. But the truth is, you are building a house of cards. And one day, it will collapse. Because here's what happens when you live this way. You stop seeing people as people. You start seeing them as tools, means to an end, pawns on a chessboard. You study them, figure out what makes them tick, learn what they want to hear, and then you give them just enough to keep them where you want them. You justify it. You tell yourself that everyone does it, that the world isn't fair, so why should you be? That if you don't take control, someone else will. And so you sharpen your words, refine your tactics, and convince yourself that this is how you win. But let me tell you, this is not winning, because manipulation is a slow poison. At first, it seems harmless. It even seems smart. But over time, it erodes everything good in your life. You see, when you manipulate, you may gain what you want in the short term, but you lose something far greater, trust. And trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to rebuild. The people in your life may not always catch on right away. They may believe your words. They may fall for your charm, but deep down, something will start to feel off. They will sense it. The way you twist conversations, the way you shift blame, the way you always seem to be one step ahead, but never in an honest way. And when they do, they will begin to pull away. Oh, they may not say it outright. They may not even confront you, but they will distance themselves. They will stop confiding in you. They will stop believing in you. They will stop trusting you. And once that happens, there is no going back. Because people can forgive mistakes, they can forgive failure, they can even forgive hurtful words, but they struggle to forgive betrayal. And that's what manipulation is. It is a betrayal of trust, a betrayal of relationships, a betrayal of the person you were meant to be. So let me ask you, do you recognize this in yourself? Do you find yourself saying things you don't mean just to get a reaction? Do you twist situations to make yourself look innocent while making others look guilty? Do you control people? Not by force, but by playing with their emotions, their fears, their hopes. If so, then hear me now. This path will destroy you. You may think you're in control. You may think you are winning. But manipulation is a cycle that never ends. The more you use it, the more you have to. The more you lie, the deeper you sink. And before you know it, you don't even know what the truth is anymore. But listen to me. It is not too late. You do not have to live this way. You do not have to be this person. The same mind that learned to manipulate can learn to be honest. The same heart that grew cold can learn to feel again. The same hands that once controlled can learn to let go. But the first step is to see it, to name it, to own it. Because only when you acknowledge the damage can you begin to repair it. And only when you stop manipulating can you start truly living. You lack empathy and feel indifferent toward others. There was a time when you felt deeply, a time when the struggles of others moved you, when their pain stirred something inside your soul. When you saw someone hurting, you felt it too. When you witnessed injustice, your heart burned with a desire to make things right. But somewhere along the way, something changed. Maybe it was disappointment. Maybe life hardened you. Maybe you convinced yourself that caring too much only leads to heartbreak. So you started to shut it off. You started to ignore the suffering of others, dismiss their emotions, and convince yourself that it wasn't your problem. Little by little, that soft heart of yours turned into stone. And now you walk through life unmoved, untouched, unaffected. You see pain, but it no longer reaches you. You hear cries for help, but they sound distant, unimportant. You witness someone struggling, and instead of feeling compassion, you feel nothing. You tell yourself that this is strength, that emotions make people weak, that in this world only the tough survive. But my friend, listen to me. This is not strength. This is a warning sign. Because a life without empathy is a life without meaning. Empathy is what connects us. It is what reminds us that we are not alone. It is what makes life richer, deeper, more human. Without it, relationships become hollow, interactions become empty, and your soul begins to wither. When you lack empathy, you start to see people as obstacles rather than individuals. Their pain becomes an inconvenience. Their struggles become something to ignore. Their emotions become irrelevant to you. And the longer you live this way, the colder you become. At first, you may not notice it. You may even feel like you're in control, like you've freed yourself from the burden of caring too much. But over time, something starts to shift. You find yourself unable to truly connect with others. You find relationships slipping away without understanding why. You find people keeping their distance, as if they can sense that something inside you has changed. And the scariest part? You don't even care. You justify it by telling yourself that people are too emotional, that they should just deal with their problems, that the world doesn't stop for feelings. And yet, deep down, when you are alone with your thoughts, something feels missing. Because the truth is, we were not created to live disconnected. No matter how much you try to suppress it, there is something inside of you that longs to feel again, to care again, to love again. But the longer you push it down, the harder it is to find your way back. You see, empathy is not just about others, it's about you. This is for the creation of yourself and the manifestation of your life. When you lose empathy, you don't just lose your ability to care about others, you lose your ability to care about yourself. You stop feeling joy the way you once did. You stop appreciating life's small, beautiful moments. You stop experiencing the kind of deep, meaningful connections that make life worth living. Because here's the truth. A heart that is numb to pain is also numb to love. You cannot shut off one emotion without shutting them all off. You may think you are protecting yourself, but in reality, you are robbing yourself of the very things that make life rich and fulfilling. So let me ask you, when was the last time you truly felt something for someone else? When was the last time you put yourself in another person's shoes and felt their struggle as if it were your own? When was the last time you let your heart be moved, not by your own desires, but by the needs of those around you? If you cannot remember, then, my friend, it is time to wake up. Because when you stop feeling for others, you are on a path that leads to isolation, to emptiness, to regret. a path where people no longer see you as a source of comfort or wisdom, but as someone to be avoided, someone who cannot be trusted with their heart. But listen to me, it is not too late. That coldness inside you, it is not permanent. That wall you've built around your heart, it can come down. You can learn to feel again. You can learn to care again. You can find your way back to the person you were before the world hardened you. But it starts with a choice to open your heart, even when it feels risky. A choice to listen, even when it's easier to ignore. A choice to care, even when the world tells you not to. Because in the end, love, kindness, and compassion are not weaknesses. They are the greatest strengths a person can have. And if you let them, they will change everything.